Hiya, my name is Dasha, and I'm a Ukrainian who has been living in the UK for 6 months now. I came here initially as an exchange student for the Erasmus Plus exchange program, but I'm still here even though my program has already officially ended, and I'll probably tell you all about it in the next videos if you want me to. But in this video, I'm just aiming to describe my experience of applying for the program, of having all of these interviews, and I'll also tell you everything about my exam results, about my grades, about my social activity, so that you know what to expect, what competition to expect when you're applying for an Erasmus Plus exchange program. In this video, I will explain how to find the program as well as other scholarships, how to apply for it, what conditions I'm staying here on, what I am receiving, as well as some secrets on how to apply successfully. I will also discuss the process of the application reviewing and the interview so that you know what to expect. And just a little disclaimer before this video. I've been thinking for quite a while what language I should film it in. I was hoping that I can do it in my native languages, in Ukrainian or Russian, but unfortunately I'm filming it on the 10th of March 2022, when due to Russian invasion, most of the people in my country are sitting in the shelters, and it's not quite the time for them to apply for any scholarships. And people in Russia are under the sanctions that I imposed on them, so it's also not an option for them. So I'm filming this video in English, but I will definitely provide all of the subtitles in Russian and Ukrainian, so that this information can be useful afterwards, because I don't think that anything will change. Okay, so let's start talking about the program. As I said, I'm here by an Erasmus Plus student exchange program, which gives a chance for Ukrainian students and for students from all over the world to come to a university which their home university has an agreement with for a semester, which is from around 4 months of studies, but usually the visa is given for 6 months. What are the conditions for the Erasmus Plus study exchange program? For my semester, I was receiving 900 euros each month, as well as 350 euros as a travel reimbursement. So the first question, how to find a program, how to find an exchange. So usually the universities are quite active at advertising their student mobilities in their university. However, if it's not the case for you, there are always student advisors in the university, and the first thing I want to tell you is don't be afraid about emailing all of the student advisors, because it is their job. It is their job to give you the information, to suggest to you how to receive all of the knowledge about the programs that you can apply for. So don't be scared, just email them. Second option, in most of the universities, I guess in all of the universities, there is a website which in my university is called the International Office. So when you go to that site, there are a lot of information about the international programs your university is engaged in. I will show you on the screen how this looks in my university. So we have a tab called something like Student Mobilities, and the tab called Active Programs. So there is an Excel file where you can see all of the programs that you can apply for now, the deadlines of these programs, the conditions, because they are different for different universities depending on the welfare, let's say, of the country where you're going to. And in this document, you can also check the eligibility requirements that are sometimes unique for the universities. So for instance, one university might want you to pass the language exam. For instance, it's IELTS for English, but not all of the universities need it. However, there are some universities, for instance, in France or Germany or whatever in the country that is not English speaking, that might need their language test in their own language, not in English. So you should definitely pay attention to it. And another point, another secret about the amount of the scholarship you can get is that there is an organization called ESN. It is it has headquarters in each of the countries. I'm not sure if the headquarters is the right word, but this is the organization that provides student discounts for students who are studying abroad. There are a lot of minor discounts that are not usually used by students, but there are also some great discounts for such big companies as Ryanair, which is one of the most popular low-cost airlines. So you can save up to £20 to €20 by using the ESN card, which you can get in your own university. So just keep it in mind and check it out. I'll leave the links in the description. Another very important thing that you have to note when looking at this document is that not all of the universities are accepting students for all of the study programs. So, for instance, when I was applying, I wanted to apply to the University of Groningen, which is in the Netherlands, and prior to my application, like the previous semester, it was accepting students from all study programs of my university. However, when I was applying, I was waiting for it for quite long, and it turned out that they were accepting students from biology and chemistry only, or something like that, which is not suitable for me as I'm studying international relations. So this was quite sad. So know that it can change any semester, but it is quite flexible because now in the University of Glasgow I was studying Eastern European Studies and Area Studies, even though my major is international relations. So this is also a small secret. Try to convince your university that you're eligible and that your study program in your home university is similar to the study program in the receiving university. And if you manage to convince them, you're welcome to go. The other important thing to talk about is the deadlines, and as you can probably see in this document, if you can speak Ukrainian, is that the deadlines for the autumn semester, for the autumn term, are all over the spring. So don't be me, because I applied at the last moment and it was quite impulsive for me. It was quite an impulse. But if I weren't me, I would start considering this in winter because in my university, I'm not sure if it's the case in the other universities, you can apply for 2 programs, so for 2 receiving universities, and to set priorities. I hate this word, priorities. So again, going back to my experience with Groningen and Glasgow, because now I'm studying in the University of Glasgow. I was going to apply to the University of Groningen, and I wanted it so much because Dutch is my favorite language in the world. Just shout out to all the Dutch speakers. But the deadline for Groningen was like a month later than Glasgow, so I decided not to apply to Glasgow, to wait for the applications in Groningen to be open. But as you already know, they just stopped accepting my study program. So I'm very lucky that I decided to apply to Glasgow and not to wait for the applications for Groningen. So please consider all of these risks. Consider the chance that your study program may not be accepted to the university you want to go to. And check if you can apply to one university or to more universities, because this may be important, and start thinking about it in winter. So the other point, the last point, I guess, in this section is how to find the other scholarships. So as we talked about the Erasmus Plus program, it is one of the most popular programs, and at least is the most promoted one by my university and by all of the universities I know. But it is not the only one. Erasmus works the way that your university has to sign an agreement with the other university, with the receiving one, and it's reciprocal as far as I know. So it is just a university exchange for the universities that have agreements between themselves. But you can also find other scholarships in the universities that your home university that doesn't have any agreements with. And the only thing you have to do is to find them and to give them to your dean and to convince him that you're eligible for this program again and that you can go. Where to find these other scholarships, which are not Erasmus+. My university, Kyiv Mogila Academy, has a Facebook group which is called International Office Nokma. If I'm not mistaken, I will leave the link in case it is useful for the other students of the other Ukrainian universities, where they post a lot of opportunities for Ukrainian students, especially for the students from their own university, but not always the case. So if I were you, I would check it out, and I really recommend you doing this. So what I am suggesting you to do is asking your student advisor, as I have already said, and try searching for different Facebook groups with opportunities, because there are a lot of them, and I personally know people who went for 3 scholarships in 3 years, which is quite interesting because, like, you cannot go, at least in my university, at least in Ukraine, you cannot go for Erasmus Plus exchange program twice. But you can do it if it is another scholarship, not the Erasmus Plus one. So definitely check it out. Check different Facebook groups if your university has any, and ask student advisors. That's important. So moving to the other section. What is important to think about, ideally in advance, when applying for the program, when submitting the application? I'm repeating myself. It's better to think about it in advance, like half a year in advance. Don't be me. Don't do what I did. That's not the right way to do it. So the 4 things that I feel like are the most important when submitting the application are language test, social activity, scientific publications, and motivation letter. I will tell you my experience regarding all of these points, so that you can assess the competition in your own university and assess your chances for a successful application. So speaking of the language test, as I have already said, the requirements for different universities are quite different. Not all of the universities require language exams from what I know. However, I would strongly recommend you to have a language exam, first of all, to assess your own capabilities, to assess your own knowledge, because you have to understand that if you're going to the other country to study in the other languages, you have to be prepared for it. If you are not, it will be very difficult for you to even feel socially included and to to grasp the information that is given to you on the lectures, which might influence your studies a lot. So I would definitely recommend you taking a language test prior to your arrival to the receiving university. And the universities in the English-speaking countries like the UK, at least for my university, at least for Ukraine, they require IELTS 6.5 band, which is B2 level of English, I guess, or B1, no, I guess B2, which I don't think is enough to successfully study in the British university. So I would definitely ask you to think about it in advance and to consider passing your exam. Take a new exam, I'm sorry. My English level sucks, as you can see. So speaking of me, when I was applying for the Erasmus Plus exchange program in the University of Glasgow, I had my IELTS exam passed with the score 8.0, which is C1 level of English, just for you to keep in mind. Why I'm saying to think about your exams in advance, because actually this information is often neglected, but there is a fact that these exams cost quite a lot. Probably not for the European countries, I'm not sure, but taking into account the Ukrainian minimal wage and the costs for IELTS in Ukraine, it costs quite a lot. So you might want to think about it in advance so that you can save a bit of money for the exam. Because in Ukraine, as far as I know, IELTS costs around 4,000, 5,000 hryvnias. And it's quite similar for the German exam, as far as I know. But for instance, the Korean language exam costs only 600 hryvnias. So you might also check the information for the language exams in your own country, because it differs a lot. The next point is social activity, and I would say that, in my personal opinion, it's probably the most important point when considering your application for Erasmus Plus program. What is social activity? Basically, if we want to put it simply, it is anything kind and valuable done for your local community or the global community for free, for no profit received by you. So it is totally up to you. It can be any volunteering, it can be engagement in non-governmental organizations or any youth organizations, but you will have to present it in the best possible way on your interview, in the best possible light, so that people who are choosing you for the program see that you are active, see that you are doing a lot, and that you are trying to do as many valuable things for your community as possible, and that you will do even more and more after you come back from your receiving university. Because you in this program is something that is being invested in, and you have to prove that you are worth being invested in. Talking about my social activity, my university asked me to describe the social activity I've been engaged in during the last 2 years. So it is also important to understand that if you were the leader of the dance club when you were 10, it might matter, and if you really don't have anything else to include, you might include this, but it would be a lot better if you did something tiny but constantly during the last 2 years before applying for the program. When I was applying for the program, I had 4 years of European Youth Parliament Ukraine behind my back. If you're interested, I can explain more and tell you more about this organization in the next videos. But it is basically a non-profitable, non-governmental youth organization in Ukraine. And as far as I remember, I was also a department member, a financial department member at that time, which is quite a high position in the youth organization. So I guess it was a huge benefit for me when my application was reviewed. I guess I also mentioned that I was a dance trainer, and I explained it in the way that I have experience in team management, because when you're a trainer, you're managing a team of your trainees. And I also said that I was volunteering, which is true. Don't think that I'm lying. No, never lie on such interviews. I also said that I was volunteering for UNDP, which is the United Nations Development Program. I was translating the educational materials for them. So I also mentioned it in my application and further during the interview. Next part, scientific publications. The part I know nothing about because I don't have any. I think in Europe it's a lot more popular to have any scientific publications when you are an undergraduate student, but I wouldn't say it's that popular in my university, at least not that I know about it. But I feel like scientific publications are a huge benefit for you when applying, because not many people can show off their knowledge like this. So if you have any, go for it. However, I didn't have any at the time when I was applying, and I don't have any yet. So I don't think I'm qualified enough to give you any advice on this. The last part is the motivation letter, and there are a lot of guides on how to write motivation letters online. You can look it up, but the only thing I have to say, and I feel like it's the most important thing about writing the motivation letter, is that motivation letter has to be personified. What I mean by personified, probably this word doesn't even exist, but I'm sorry if it doesn't. In your motivation letter, you have to prove that your situation is unique. You have to convince those who are reviewing your application that either you are unique and you are very valuable for the receiving university and for your home university as well, that you're the next world leader and, I don't know, some new inventor, the best scientist, someone who will receive a Nobel Prize. You have to convince them that it is you. Or you have to prove that the university is unique and that the knowledge you can receive is only possible for you to receive in your receiving university. So for instance, when I was applying in the University in Glasgow, I have to I forgot the word. Let me Google. So when I was applying to the University of Glasgow in Scotland, I have a thing to confess. I knew nothing about Glasgow and I knew nothing about Scotland. When I was applying, I was so worried that my application would be declined. So I decided not to be disappointed. And not to be disappointed, I decided not to have any expectations. So my task was quite difficult. I was writing about how Scotland and Glasgow itself were unique to me. I was writing something about Brexit and how Scotland was important during Brexit and how keen I was to check it out on place, to check what people think of it, to check what consequences it had from a sociological point of view. So basically, your motivation letter has to be unique and to approach directly your unique personality and the uniqueness of the university you're applying to. A little life hack, secrets for those who are applying to the University of Glasgow or any other university in Scotland. Don't write anything about England. That's what I've learned here. So the last part. When you have submitted your application online, when you have submitted all of the required documents, which we'll probably talk about in the next video because this was one of the most confusing things for me in the whole application process. When you have submitted all of the documents and applications, you will probably be invited to the interview if your application was successful. And this part of the video will be the most personal because as far as I understand and as far as I know, interviews in all of the universities are different. They definitely have some similar traits, that's why I'm telling you about it, but I cannot guarantee that in your university you will have just the same interview as I did. First of all, because the interview is conducted by people and all people have different perceptions, different values, different points of view. So this part is only for you to consider my own experience and to make your own conclusions if you want. So in my home university, even though there are two official languages, Ukrainian and English, the interview for me was conducted in English as I was applying to an English-speaking country. I'm not sure about other countries. I think interviews would still be conducted in English because student advisors definitely cannot know all of these languages like Turkish, French, German. This would be too much for them. So I guess it will also be conducted in English. And from what I know, to the University of Glasgow, we had 4 places from my university. So 4 people each semester went for an exchange program in the University of Glasgow, so that you understand the competition. One more thing I have to say about the competition for my program is that we had only one study program, or 3 study programs accepted to the University of Glasgow: history, political science, and international relations. So there were not that many people who applied. So I guess this made competition a bit smaller and a bit more tolerable for us. What is important on the interview and what do they want from you on the interview? You have to understand that it is important for your home university to be sure that when you go to the receiving university, you will not just spend all of your time traveling, drinking, hanging out with the international students or hanging out with the local students or doing whatever. They need to know that you will definitely pass all of your exams and that you will come to your home university with the unique knowledge and with new value that you can use in contributing for your university, to your university. So what you have to do on the interview is to convince your international advisor, international officer, whoever, that you are very interested in the subjects that you've picked for your exchange, that your life depends on it, that you can't live without this knowledge, that you're going there to study and to acquire more and more knowledge, and that it's your life goal. And also, as I have already mentioned, it is important... Oh, hi Joel. I can see you.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, you did. And also, as I have already mentioned, it is important to make them understand that this university is the most suitable for you, that this university is unique and you will make the most out of studying here, not anywhere else. So for my personal experience, as I have already said, I was studying area studies in the University of Glasgow, and my picked subjects were Chinese politics, intergroup conflict, and quantitative methods in social sciences. So basically, what we were talking about the whole interview is China, and why it is important for me to study China, and why I'm studying China in the University of Glasgow, when I said that I wanted to go there to study Scotland and Brexit. But taking into account that I'm studying Korean and my current level of Korean is somewhere between B1 and B2, I managed to convince them that my primary interest in area studies is Eastern Asia, and that it is very important for me, and that I love these subjects so bad that they believed me that I will not fail my exams, which never happened. Congratulations to me. So I was chosen for the program. That was my experience. The other things that are happening on the interview is you are being asked questions on your application. Basically, people are just double checking that you haven't lied anywhere in your application, and that all of the information that you have written there is true. Because of course there are so many people that write, for instance, social activity that they have never been engaged in. So basically it's just double checking. Nothing very serious, nothing that you should be afraid of. So in this video we've talked about Erasmus Plus exchange programs, about how to find scholarships, about the conditions of my Erasmus Plus exchange program, about the ways to apply and apply successfully for this program, and the process of reviewing your application and interviewing you. So I hope that this video was useful for you. I hope that you have received enough information to just now go check your international office out, find all of the possible Facebook pages or channels on Telegram, wherever, just to consider applying for such a program right now. Because in my life, this was probably the most life-changing experience. This was probably experience that taught me the most, that made me grow up in like months, that made me become the most, not the most, but a lot more responsible than I used to be, and gave me the most valuable experiences in my life, as well as a lot of great memories. So I hope your applications will be successful, and if you have any questions, please be free to write them down in the comments. I'm so not used to asking people to like the video or something, but if you want to, you're free to do so. I will try to answer all of your questions in the comments or in the next videos. And I'm thinking about talking about documents in the next video, because I know that for many students who are doing exchange abroad, it is the most stressful part. So I'll try to share my experience and to explain how to avoid all of these nerves that shouldn't be spent for such a little thing like this. So see you guys in the next video. Bye! It was very nice to meet you this time.